right, so Justin, if you will help us kick off the MML statewide presentation.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Thank you all. It's good to see you. We miss doing these in person, as you can imagine. I know several of you have been to them before. Usually we get to sit around. There are a few taking place tonight, which is why Mayor Day isn't here just yet. So he wants me to send his regrets for not being able to do this presentation for you, but he does still plan to stop by. I believe we have 4 dinners tonight. It doesn't usually happen this way. Each chapter kind of picks the date, sends the invites out, figures out what works well for you. It just so happened December 16th, everybody across the board. And so I will share this now. We'll go through it and we'd love to get your feedback. Love it. So welcome. My name is Justin Fiori. I'm a government relations manager for the Maryland Municipal League. I've been with the league for about 4 years now, so I've gotten to know some of you. And as long as I've been here, you might recognize this one. Municipal highway user revenues has been a priority for the league for 11 years now. Dates back to recession time when funding dropped. Highway user revenues, they are state funds that are shared through a variety of taxes and fees, and they're distributed by a formula. You saw the picture of potholes, but there are these other uses for it as well: repaving, sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, etc. So this is a lot of money that can be used for a lot of real-world applications at the municipal level. This kind of tells the story of it over time. I won't bore you with too much. But you can see the big blue bars here. That's how much we were getting through the dedicated funding source, through the formula prior to the recession. Then you see this red bar take over and continue. If you look at the top of where that red bar is, that's how much municipalities would be receiving through this fund if they were maintaining it. When the formula got cut, our blue bar dropped down significantly from 45 million to about 2 million. That's lost money. So everything you see in red here is essentially what municipalities have been trying to backfill to fully fund their roads. We got a little bit of our annual grants in the yellow here through FY 14 through 19. And while those were a welcome boost to what we were getting from the formula, it was also very hard to reliably plan out large transportation projects when we really weren't sure if the money was going to be there the next year. We worked really hard and are very thankful for the legislation that passed in 2018, which is when you see this blue bill or blue arrow go back up. That brought us back to about 85% of the formula that we had prior to the recession, and was unfortunately came with the sunset for FY25. So you see at the end of the graph here, if we don't take more action, we go back down to I think it's going to be about 8 million. And it just happens to be the perfect storm of problems. We've been underfunded for about a decade. The cost of materials and the cost of labor continues to rise for these projects. So we need to get this across the finish line. How we're going to do that? We need to eliminate the sunset, first and foremost. We've passed a bill out of the Senate the last couple of years that would do that. But it's also looking like a good time to increase HUR levels back to the 2019 formula. As a aside, it was 2.6% of everything that went into the account. It dropped down to 0.2%. We're at 2% now. So we're looking for about a 0.5% tweak to the formula, get municipalities back to full funding, drop the sunset, good to go. The second priority has to do with police accountability boards. Last year, the police accountability legislation included provisions that would have the counties create charging committees and police accountability boards. These boards are county entities filled with county residents that would have to oversee practices in all of the county, well, all of the police departments that exist within the county. That includes municipal police departments. So the issue with this, why we're asking for a change, is that we believe that the system underrepresents municipal voices. And that we also believe that the timelines can potentially be extended a little bit further. If you think about it, so we have a police accountability board at the county level, underrepresentation of municipal voices, and longer resolution timelines. We hope that we get a tweak to the law that also allows municipalities to create these charging committees and police accountability boards. Those are our two priorities. We also have a strategic initiative to combat climate change, and that is all we have for you this year. I'm happy to answer any questions, get any thoughts about how we can make this a more effective push this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, thank you very much. Holly is going to let us go through our priorities next, and then we'll open the floor for some questions, and then we'll move for comments and feedback from our delegation. Okay, so we have, as a chapter, been surveying on our issues and talked over many meetings, and we have just a few priorities to share with you today, but I did want to speak and support the priorities, especially HUR, and you will see how some of the other ones play out. But Holly, if you could go to the next slide, please. So tax duplication at the county level is definitely something we've been focused on. We're getting very close, and we're hopeful we can make the same kind of progress, and if not more, with some of our state priorities. So we wanted to just talk to you a little bit about that. So the first is, generally anything that relates to COVID recovery, we know this has taken a tremendous toll from a health and economic perspective.
Hold on just a second. Yeah, I can hear it.
We can hear you. If we could just go on mute, please, if you're not speaking. Thank you. So that is a priority for us. The other issue that has come up for many of our municipalities is we have noticed that in our area in Montgomery County, many of our local papers have gone away. Okay. And so for many of us, we have had to go to one paper in particular, and it's very expensive for our municipalities. Holly, if you could just mute anyone who's not muted, that would be great. Thank you. So we are interested in having a discussion at a state level about amending the notice requirement for charter amendments and annexations, given that reduction in local papers and the cost of printing legal ads. So I know that one of our representatives will maybe speaking about this a bit later, but we did want to make sure that at the forefront for all of you, that it's costing several $1,000s, and for some municipalities it's very, very heavy on the budget, and we'd like to advocate for legislation that would provide an enabling authority for jurisdictions to post those electronic legal notices, and also to do direct mailing of notices to all municipal residents as a way to make sure everyone sees it, but in a cost-effective manner. The other piece is the education and learning loss due to COVID. We have been and met with a superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools. We are hearing from several teachers that the learning loss is about 1.5 years. And I know there are several things at the state level that can be done to help support our school system and get our children back on track. We also discussed the importance of supporting climate change. We're thankful to see some of that happening at the federal level, and hopefully there's money at the state level that can then also support municipalities. But that is another area we see as important. In Montgomery County, we experienced flooding like we have never seen in the past. It affected several of our, well, some of our municipalities even more, where we saw a raft being used to rescue people from an apartment building. So we are very concerned on the impacts of that, and are even at some municipal levels looking at how do we deal with stormwater management and flooding a bit more. In addition, Vision Zero, some of us have Vision Zero plans directly, but we also know this is something that's really important at the state level. In particular, even if we do everything we need to do at the municipal level on our local roads, we are seeing that there's a high rate of fatalities and serious crashes on state roads. And so, one that runs through many of our municipalities is 355. There are many others that run through our municipalities, but we would love to see you all take a look at the safety and engineering around those roads and support Vision Zero. And the last thing I'll mention is the noise from modified exhaust. There was a bill last year that looked at increasing fines for these that did not make it through. And we're hopeful that you'll take a look at that. I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions about what was shared at the state level, as well as our chapter. And then also, I'm going to ask Andy if you might want to share a few more insights about specifically a notice requirement.
Jared is traveling on business and couldn't be here this evening. And so he sent me just the rough draft. It's being worked on by the drafting people. But right now, the current law requires basically that any proposed amendment to our charters be published in a newspaper of general circulation at least 4 times at weekly intervals and within 40 days after the resolution is adopted. And Jared is working on an amendment to this, which would say within 40 days after the resolution is adopted, or delivering a copy of a fair summary of the charter amendment to every home in the municipality, either by mail or by hand. And then he's also working on another provision dealing with a public referendum and public notice piece, so that for public hearings and that kind of thing, that perhaps we could communicate more directly with our residents without having to pay a local, very expensive newspaper a lot of money for tiny 6-point unreadable ads that no one subscribes to anyway. So that's the gist of it. So he's working on the fine-tuning the wording, but it would help us both for charter amendments and also for public notice of other kinds of provisions dealing with public referendum and public other requirements of public notice. That's basically all I have to say because I haven't seen the final wording.
Thank you, Andy. Does anyone have any questions or anything else to add? Well, I see Senator Susan Lee. Would you like to go first?
Certainly. Thank you so much for allowing me to do that. I wasn't sure what you wanted me to speak on, but I can tell you that we had a very challenging 2021 legislative session with COVID still raging, and we were just getting our vaccines. And I know on the Senate side, we had to work in these little plexiglass cubicles and do hearings online. Unfortunately, we didn't have our advocates and our community leaders and you all there to be able to be there in person because of COVID-19. And I think because of that, I think we could have had a more successful session with more of your input if you were there. So I'm looking forward to you all being able to go onto the premises looking forward in the 2022 legislative session. We're so glad that you're having this right now and that we're still able to do this. And I think this was the prudent and best way to get us all together without infecting each other with COVID still raging. So I think this was a good move that we did this by Zoom so we could still hear what your priorities are and how we can help you and we can move forward together. I have to say that I am in District 16, and I'm very fortunate to be able to serve with my wonderful delegates, Delegate Mark Corman, Delegate Ariana Kelly, and Delegate Sarah Love. They're all really experts in their own field of expertise, especially Delegate Corman, who is the chair of our House Montgomery County delegation, and he also is a go-to guy on funding and appropriations and transportation. Delegate Kelly is great in healthcare, and Delegate Love is wonderful in the environment. I am in the Senate Majority Whip, and I also serve on the Judicial Proceedings Committee. And I know there was a question about police reform, but I know that Chairman Smith is on the Zoom right now, and so is Vice Chair Jeffrey Wallstreicher, who really led us in this very historic police reform that created a more equitable criminal justice system. And I'll let them speak to that, the question you had about civilian oversight boards. But I think we did a pretty good job under the circumstances. I think Maryland was one of the first states to step forward to address this hundreds and hundreds of years of systemic injustice and racism in our criminal justice system. So I commend both my Chair Smith, and Vice Chair Wallstreicher for the work they did. It was not easy. Did Holly and Monique, did you want me to speak on some of my legislation going forward in the 2020 session? I'll do it really quick because I don't want to hog this whole thing. I just want to give my colleagues a chance to speak too. I thank everyone who was active in helping override the governor's veto of my bill, SB 208, and Delegate Atterbury's bill, HB 4, which requires background checks on the on the sale of long guns. It's important because we don't want the wrong people getting those guns, buying them online or without a background check, and creating violence and gun tragedies. And I know that's something that you all support too, because you want to keep our community safe. So that legislation, that veto was overrode thanks to all your help too. Going forward, I'm going to have a bill with Delegate Leslie Lopez and the Attorney General Frosch to regulate and what they call ghost guns. And I think everybody knows what ghost guns are, right? They're guns that can be assembled from different parts. There's no serial number on it, and they're not traceable, and they don't require background checks. And all the wonderful gun safety bills that we passed will not be great unless we have also the regulation of ghost guns. I know the federal government has said that they will get on this, but you know how long the federal government takes to pass anything or implement any policy dealing with things like this. So Delegate Lopez and I are going forward with our ghost guns bill. And I also have a bill, the Maryland Online Consumer Protection Act. You know that some companies misuse, delete, or share or sell our personal information. And this bill going forward is modeled after the California law that has been passed, and in some other jurisdictions too, to ban the sale, misuse, deletion, or sell or sharing of our personal information without our consent, and have an automatic opt-out for 16 years old and under. And I like to thank you all for supporting my bill this last session. It passed SB 49 that dealt with having Do It help our localities fight cyber attacks, because the locals have been the huge targets of ransomware attacks. And also, thank you for helping me pass my bill, first ever in Maryland, dealing with criminalizing the use of ransomware, the possession and malicious use of ransomware, which is becoming an ongoing problem because most of the victims of ransomware are localities, hospitals, critical infrastructure, schools, and we increase penalties for the attack against things like government entities like yourselves, and also public schools and hospitals and other critical infrastructure. There's going to be some other bills that I am going to introduce, but I just want to tell you what the subject matter is without going into further detail. You can contact me or my wonderful Chief of Staff, Michael Lurie. We're going to have a number of domestic violence bills, a stalking bill, a safe harbor bill for child victims of human trafficking, and some issues dealing with child custody in cases of child abuse and domestic violence. But thank you for the honor and privilege of letting me represent and serve you in the Senate. I look forward to working with you on those critical issues that are your priorities, and so that we can move Maryland forward. Thank you again.
Thank you, Senator. And if you can just send us an email when you're ready with those additional pieces of legislation, we'd love to learn more about it and share it among our municipalities. I did want to step back and wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just didn't want to take the whole entire time here. We have a lot more, but these are the higher priorities. Thank you again, Nate, for your leadership.
We appreciate that you're working hard. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now I wanted to turn it back to, or at least acknowledge, our president of the Maryland Municipal League and Mayor, Jake Day. Did you want to say a few words? I know we went through the priorities.
Councilmember, thank you so much for having me. Good to see you all. How are you? So I apologize that I couldn't be on for the entire call. It turns out there are 3 chapters of the Maryland Municipal League that are meeting at the same time tonight. So I hope you'll forgive me. But it's a pleasure to be with you right now. And I trust that Justin described our priorities for the year as voted upon by the membership. And if there are any questions that linger from that, I'm happy to address those as well. But what I also wanted to add, if I may, is that we have a board vacancy that has arisen, and there's a vacancy that has arisen. Someone left the board, and then a member representing a district of district vice president moved into a new role. And so that has left an at-large vacancy. And I wanted to encourage the Montgomery County chapter in particular to consider applying for that vacancy. So we're going to do a full open expression of interest to the entire membership. And this will last into January. We'll send out messages to the membership. So we'll include that in the next newsletter. We'll post this on Facebook. But I wanted to share this with you all because frankly, I want to see increased membership on the board or representation on the board from Montgomery County if possible. So this is my beg, my plea for those expressions of interest to come in from Montgomery County chapter members and the municipal officials from your neck of the woods. The next thing I wanted to just say is that if it wasn't addressed or hasn't been addressed already tonight, I want to thank the various municipal officials and municipal attorneys from Montgomery County who have assisted in doing an incredible job of representing all of the municipalities in Maryland and really all Marylanders in the negotiations with the Office of the Attorney General over the opioid litigation settlement. It's been challenging. It has been elbow deep and gruesome at times, but we are making progress. The counties and municipalities are each, I think, making progress in emphasizing and demonstrating that municipal government has a significant role to play here. And I just wanted to say thank you to each of those elected officials who have been engaged in that process. So I wish you all happy holidays. I want to say thank you again for including me tonight. And if I can answer any questions, whether it relates to the board of directors position or our priorities or anything else, I'm happy to.
And did you say that when we apply that our application will be double points?
Yeah, I think I said that. Did I say that? I said double points for Montgomery County Municipal Officials.
Wonderful, thank you. I wanted to acknowledge that Senator Kagan has joined us. Welcome, Senator Kagan. I know she has several events tonight as well, and I really just wanted to thank you for joining us this evening. All right, so I did see a question. I'm going back to the priorities that we shared, and Delegate Carr asked, is there a municipal champion on modified
Sorry, council member. Sorry.
Oh, hello. Go free to go ahead.
I'm driving and I have to unmute and get my video on while I'm driving. Not ideal.
That's impressive.
What we do to multitask, right? I can speak for a minute, or I can just say hi and happy holidays. Whatever's appropriate.
Feel free, go ahead.
All right, hi. Very proud to be a many-time municipal superstar and to work closely with my friends in Rockville and Gaithersburg. I'm Cheryl Kagan, District 17, and that is the way I introduce myself all the time. I just want to give you a glimpse at my 2022 agenda. For the last 4 years, after 3 people have died in my district, including my friend Carl Henn, and 911 failed, I spent the last 4 years chairing a statewide commission. We've passed 11 laws already, and I'm going to have 6 bills this year. MACO has been a strong partner in this process, the Maryland Association of Counties, as everyone on this call would surely know. And we are going to be supporting our 911 specialists and working for a statewide 311 program so that our constituents have access to their government, even if they don't have Wi-Fi, even if they can't afford a computer, even if English is not their primary language, they're going to be able to contact and learn information about their government. I have 5 election reform bills. I have 4 environmental bills. I have a number of consumer protection laws, one on drugs driving. It's one thing if we want to move forward to legalizing cannabis, but it's another thing to put more stoned drivers on the road. And in every state, I'm going to pull over, in every state where cannabis has been decriminalized or legalized, the drugs driving deaths, mortalities has been extraordinary. And that is something we don't want to import to Maryland. So we're working on that, a number of other issues, and I just look forward to working with MML whenever appropriate and possible. And I just have to give it a shout out because Justin Fiori, MML staffer, is a former chief of staff in my office and a good friend and a great advocate for municipalities, 157 cities and towns in Maryland. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or just wish you all the best for the holidays and the new year. And I look forward to seeing you in Annapolis. I am vice chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. And so we have more bills and a broader jurisdiction than any of the other 3 committees in the Senate. And so I suspect a number of you might be coming through, and I look forward to that.
Thank you, Senator. So just want to acknowledge, we mentioned at the beginning, but I saw Delegate Pam Queen join us. I love your background. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to just see if anyone had a quick question, because I know Senator Kagan has to drop off. Okay. Thank you, Senator Kagan, for joining us, and we'll be in touch.
If there was a question, I'm happy to wait for a minute. Was there a question?
I'm not seeing any hands yet, but someone may mention it. Okay. And I also wanted to acknowledge Senator Zucker. Welcome. Thank you, Senator Kagan.
Take care, all.
Thank you. Okay, I saw that we had, I think he may have dropped off, but Montgomery County House Delegation Chair Mark Corman, are you still here? Okay.
I am, but I didn't sign up to speak, so let me lift up the work of my colleagues and pass it back to you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, next I want to welcome and Majority Leader Eric Lutke did sign up to speak, and I wanted to allow a time for that. Just let you get off mute, but while you're doing that, I was going to go back to Delegate Carr asked a question of the municipalities, who is a champion on the modified exhaust. I want to say that really quick. So I know that there are several of us who have this as an issue. Our police departments in Gaithersburg and Rockville have also allied on this issue, and we'll be happy to talk to you more about what we're experiencing. And if any others want to contact you, we'd be happy to be in touch on that. Awesome. All right, so Delegate Lutke.
I didn't realize I had signed up to speak, but I'm always happy to talk. So let me first say that Ryan Spiegel texted me as soon as I got on to ask me if I'd shown up to an MML meeting in a t-shirt, and the answer is no, it's a sweater. I want to be clear. And second, I'm really excited that Jake Day could join us because it's a long trip across the bay to join us on Zoom. And it's nice to see him.
And I'm
how you
in
doing, Jake?
Austin.
It's a long swim, man, and it's cold at this time of year. No, I just want to, on behalf of House leadership, thank you all and MML generally for being such great partners to the state and to the state legislature in your work. We are still in the midst of this pandemic, as we are all learning, and as my students are actively texting me this evening to try to get me to delay or move online my exams because of a COVID outbreak on campus. But it's really been the municipalities across the state that have been the front line in responding to COVID, right? I mean, it's the services that you all provide. It's the health departments, it's the police departments, it's the fire and rescue services. It's mayors and council members answering questions from constituents late into the night. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for that. And this session, we're looking forward to some robust conversations. I'll say on the highway user revenues issue, you should definitely talk to Delegate Corman and Senator Zucker because they control the entire budget. So you should absolutely bug them as much as possible about it. We're looking forward to working with each and every one of you.
Thank you. And we hope that we have everyone's support on highway user revenues. We really need that support. Thank you. And I had to put that plug in, and thank you for also putting the plug. All right, so I'm going through the folks who checked the button for present to speak. And I will just also note, I'm seeing some questions come through. Councilmember Spiegel asked, are you all hearing anything about the potential impacts of Omicron on operations or rules for the 2022 session? And also, I believe there was a cyber attack that is having an impact on the data that's important for all of us to make local decisions. So if anyone wants to speak to that, any of those two.
I'm happy to talk a little. So the House and Senate are both operating under modified restrictions already. We're limiting receptions in the legislative office buildings. Part of that is a result of an issue we had with one of the buildings in the legislative complex. In the House, at least, we are planning to do all of our committee hearings online through Zoom, regardless of what happens with Omicron. We were planning that prior to Omicron because it makes it more accessible to people who don't have to drive a couple hours and then sit a couple hours in a hearing room waiting for a hearing. The Senate, I don't know if Senator Zucker or any of the other senators have thoughts to share, but I haven't heard of any changes right now in House procedures.
I think it's the intent of the Senate to try to get back to whatever normal is. We still haven't published exactly what we're doing yet, but I think it's our intent to try to bring back some type of normalcy. Part of our advantage is just the numbers game. There's fewer of us, but we'll have to see how the virus spreads. But right now, if you were to visit both the House and the Senate chambers, all the penalty boxes that we had have all been taken down. And for the 4 standing committees in the Senate, we used to have these partitions that would separate all of us. Those have all been taken down as well. So this past special session, we operated in a virtual environment, but stay tuned for next steps for the Senate. But again, the thought process is we want to try to get back to a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, we understand that constituents and also community leaders and individuals such as yourself, advocates, can visit the Senate office building and House building, but you have to just you have to arrange an appointment. And also before you go into the building, of course, you have to take like a temperature test. And I understand, and Senator Zucker can correct me if I'm wrong, you have to produce a card saying that you're vaccinated or you were tested. But those are just protocols in order to keep everybody safe in the legislature. With respect to the attack, are you talking about the recent attack against the Maryland Department of Health? Monique, is that what you're asking?
That's right. Yeah, several municipalities are thinking about things on how to deal with our public as well as access to municipal buildings, and the data that is available has been so important. And so just wanted to, I know that for a while, the last posted data was December 4th, and there's been a lot going on with Omicron since then. So I just wanted to see where we are with that, and you know, how do we get that
Well,
data?
we were very concerned about the attack on that particular state agency because they hold such personal data, and it's dangerous if the bad actors get a hold of that. And but that's so important why you all need to work with us very closely in partnership, because a lot of attacks now are against, they were against mostly localities, but now it's they're attacking the state too. And we need to have consistent policies and protocols and best practices throughout the entire state. And I think the localities particularly need some assistance from us. That's why it was important that we pass my bill HB 49 this session with your help to have do it, provide you with the resources and help to help you identify vulnerabilities, as well as be proactive. And unfortunately, if you are an attack, you experience a cyber attack, that you have some kind of rapid response to that attack so that you get your operations up and running again. But I think I thank you for raising that, and I look forward to working with you all on that particular issue.
Thank you. So our next speaker signed up is Senator Wilson.
I think I heard my name. Did you say Will Smith? Well, hey, good evening, everyone.
Yes, that's you. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, Monique, thank you. So good to, well, I saw you before, but your screen's blank now, but good to see you virtually. And Mayor Day, good to see you. I know it's been a while with you back, but welcome back. Thank you for your service. You spent a long, rough year abroad, so it's always good to see you. I know we had a chance to chat, but good to see you virtually here. And for everyone, MML, thank you so much for, Eric, you said it best. Thank you for all the work you've done and the partnership that we've had over the last few years. It's been great to work with you, and I look forward to our continued partnership. And I got to give a shout out to Mayor Stewart, and I think we got 2 council members from Tacoma Park on, Dabalia and Smith. So the best team in Maryland. So just good to see you all. Look, I'll be very brief. Last year, and Monique and Susan, you alluded to all this. Last year, our major lines of effort in JPR were policing reform, parole reform, and immigration. And you know, we had a very successful session. I think I would say a historic session, despite all the challenges. And in a mere 90 days, we revolutionized how we do policing in Maryland. We've completely reformed our parole reform, our post-conviction process, and we've made some serious strides forward with respect to how our state interacts with immigration. So I'm very proud of the work we've done, and I will address the charging board issue at the bottom here. But I'm really proud of the work we've done, and I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that at a later time, at the more appropriate time. This year, our major lines of effort deal, again, you've heard from Senator Lee, with ghost guns and gun safety. So ghost guns are unserialized firearms, which obviously the ATF is going to promulgate some regulations with respect to those polymer 80 kits and how they're distributed. These are basically 80% kits that you can get distributed to your house. You can get them shipped directly to your house. You do not need a background check for those. The ATF regulations will essentially close that loophole. But then that begs the question, what happens when private industry starts producing 70% kits or 65% kits? So we are going to have to innovate and understand how to regulate unserialized firearms. I think what the Attorney General and what Senator Lee and Delegate Lopez have put forward, it gets us pretty close. So I'm looking forward to working with them. Obviously, we've got the cannabis issue has come up. On our side of the house, we're not dealing with the regulatory piece. We deal with the criminal side of the house. And once, look, you've got a national framework where it's still, cannabis is still a Schedule I substance under the CSA. And although 36 states have moved forward with medical legalization of medical cannabis, and I think 18 states and the District of Columbia have moved forward with recreational cannabis legalization, there's still a patchwork of laws that deal with how we do it. So you got to think about what does that mean for the parole system? What does that mean for firearm possession, Can you smoke it in public places? How do you regulate that? What about motor vehicles? What about personal amounts? How much can you have on your person? What about possession with intent to distribute? I mean, it teases out so many different issues that we're going to have to deal with within the criminal justice system. So we'll be looking to you all to partner with that as we move forward with some sort of either legalization regime, either whether it's going to be through an actual bill and do it now or through a referendum in the years to come. Juvenile justice is another thread, another major line of effort within the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I'll just tease out one element of that, and that's the youths charged as adults. It's very controversial, but it's something that I think is far overdue. We can talk a little bit more about that. And then finally, investments in public safety. And that doesn't necessarily mean more officers on the street, but how do we attract and retain top flight officers? How do we professionalize the profession? And how do we invest in our those folks that are public safety officials? And that means everything from that investment in the officer to infrastructure and other improvements around our cities and municipalities and our counties and our state that can increase the security proposition throughout our state and in our community. So that's those are the four major lines of effort: guns, cannabis, juvenile justice, and investment in public safety. Obviously, we will receive hundreds of bills that deal with all sorts of subject matter that comes under our purview. So looking forward to entertaining those as well. Tacking back to the charging board question, that is something we are going to look into, because not only, I know we hear you with the municipalities being nested under the county charging board, but there's also another element with the state police. The state police, what happens if an incident happens within your municipality or within any given county? There's no board that oversees the state police part. So we've got to fix that and decide whether that's the right policy to have a state police officer from someone from the MSP nested under one of your charging boards, or are we going to create another thing that kind of oversees that? So they're kind of a top end thing and a bottom end knots that we've got to kind of secure there. Finally, with the muffler, that will come to our committee. I live in Silver Spring off of Colesville. My neighborhood abuts Colesville, and so that from Howard County all the way down, I get a lot of constituent complaints. And the question is, and I'll look to you, it's a political question. I think we can figure out how to do this, but do you make it a primary offense or a secondary offense? Do you make it a citation? Do you make it something that's a must appear? When the movement is going toward kind of pulling police away from these, these types of interactions that then lead to other consequences and arrests and interactions. And if you're looking toward the data that comes out in terms of interactions with people of color or the disparate interaction with people of color, it's a difficult political needle to thread. And so if you're, the solutions that we've got to figure out is, are we going to do it as citation? Or do you want officers engaging for a traffic violation? And what does that look like? So, I think we need to all have that conversation out loud and decide which way we're going to move there, because we can't say on one end we want to pull officers away and don't have these pretextual stops, and then on the other end create another offense which is going to go ahead and force that interaction. So that's a difficult question that I think we need to have out loud. And so I just put that out there as a cautionary tale for the legislation that's coming next session. And with that, I'll just say thank you, and I'll wrap up with that.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I know some of us have discussed the conversation has been about the fee is not something that is that decentivizes. Also, several of us have talked about can we better communicate, and those folks who are actually making the modifications, making them aware that that is not legal, and also imposing a fine on those kinds of shops. I don't think everyone knows that it's not legal. So that's another way to look at it. The other thing you can do is look at signage. There are some really good signage that we've seen that speaks to public law on our highways, and that's another area. So just a couple of thoughts, and I see that I saw a similar situation, similar from one of our colleagues who posted in chat: prohibit repair facilities from modifying and offer bounties for information. I don't know about the bounties part, but at least the repair facilities.
That's been the most elegant solution or approach I've seen. So
Thank you. And I see Mayor Jake Day is signing off, and just want to thank you for being here with us and representing us at the state level.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Senator. Have a good night. Good night to you all.
Thank you. Just to make it interactive, I want to pause for questions. If anyone has questions on what you've heard thus far, please feel free. Jared, did you have a question? I saw your hand up. Okay, all right. All right, next I want to welcome Senator Brian Feldman. If you would like to say a few words,
Sure,
Senator Feldman is the
I
vice chair.
I don't think I signed up, but I'll just very quickly. First of all, 15th district, we're going to actually, the newest member of the Montgomery County delegation will be sworn in tomorrow. Linda Foley, who's been the chair of our Democratic Central Committee, was appointed by Governor Hogan. Governor Hogan signed off on that this week, and tomorrow she's officially being sworn in Maryland House of Delegates, replacing former delegate Kathleen Dumais, who was sworn in 2 weeks ago to be a new circuit court judge here in Montgomery County. So that's on the D15 side. I'd also take a little exception with Senator Kagan. Yes, they have a lot of bills. Half of them are local alcohol bills. Actually, the broadest subject matter jurisdiction in the entire Maryland General Assembly is the Senate Finance Committee. And we deal with healthcare policy and economic development and energy policy and unemployment insurance and labor issues and all that kind of stuff. And so in a nutshell, I chair a commission with Delegate Pena Melnick from Prince George's County. We met today. It's called the Health Insurance Coverage Protection Commission. And we've done a lot in Maryland the last few years on health insurance, healthcare, post-COVID. Again, there's a lot there. And so we today are coming together on a whole new package of bills for the 2022 session in the healthcare space. Energy policy and climate change, big national topic. We're getting a lot of federal money coming in for investments in clean energy. 2 years ago, we passed something called the Clean Energy Jobs Act, which is a bill of mine. A lot of upside potential. So there's going to be activity. I think those states that put the infrastructure in place for solar, for offshore wind, et cetera, are going to be the states that are going to benefit, I think, big time in terms of economic development, job creation, and clean energy. And it's been alluded to a few times. We are working on the Senate side on a part of a work group along with with Senator Jeff Waldstreicher, who's been really a partner on putting together a potential adult use legalization bill. And so the House position is that they just want to do a referendum. And we are sort of taking a look at, if we're going to do a referendum and it's likely to pass, why not have an implementation companion bill to go along with it? And so Senator Waldstreicher has been very involved, myself and a small group of senators, and certainly Chair Smith will be involved as well. So that's another hot topic, which comes jurisdictionally to the Senate Finance Committee, which is a little bit odd that that's the way things have shaken out. So I would say healthcare, energy policy has been alluded to a few times. And on the cannabis issue, you've got all the criminal justice reforms where Senators Waldstreicher and Smith are in the middle. But then you have a whole array of all the market structure, licensing issues, economic issues, which are infinitely complicated, social equity in that space. And in addition, you've got some of the issues that Senator Kagan mentioned about public safety and health. So it's a big hodgepodge. We're working on one big omnibus bill, hopefully. But anyway, those are some of the subjects the Finance Committee will be taking up this upcoming session.
Thank you, Senator Feldman. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. I'm working off a list from the RSVP that folks said either present or only attend. So no pressure to speak if you change your mind. And if you did not sign up initially, but you do want to speak, please feel free. We're going to move next to Delegate Al Carr. I want to thank everyone who has been here with us thus far. I will look, if you didn't sign up to speak, but you want to, if you would please drop it in the chat and I will go to you. All right.
Thank you, Monique. Good evening, everybody. I'm Al Carr from District 18, proud to represent 9 municipalities along with Senator Waldstreicher and Delegates Shetty and Solomon. And I'm looking forward to working with you this upcoming session to advance all of your priorities. Just wanted to quickly highlight one of the bills I'm working on that I think you might be interested in. So 2 years ago, Senator Lee and I introduced a bill on street lighting to give municipalities more tools, more options for modernizing their street lighting. So that bill did not pass because PEPCO promised to work with the Public Service Commission to update their tariffs. Well, that the Public Service Commission did not accept PEPCO's proposal in that regard. So we're sort of back to square one. So I'm planning to reintroduce the bill this year. It is modeled after legislation in that's in the District of Columbia, in some of the New England states, where the municipalities there have a lot more flexibility and freedom to modernize their lighting and save money and not be sort of chained to the utility tariffs and the Public Service Commission. I think other than Tacoma Park, that has had great success in modernizing their lighting, and Section 3, the county has not, and a lot of the other municipalities in PEPCO land have not. So look for that bill coming out, and would love your support on that. So happy to answer any questions if you want to email me on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Anyone have any questions?
I would just like to report that PEPCO is still giving us a hard time.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. All right, next I'm going to turn it to Senator Wallstreicher.
Well, thank you for having me, everyone. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that we are still doing this, even under difficult circumstances. And as my colleague Delegate Al Carr mentioned, I think our district has the most municipalities in Montgomery County at 9. And we're so honored that that's the case. As Delegate Carr mentioned, we represent that district with Delegate Shetty and Delegate Solomon. And of course, we work together each and every day as a team. And I know many of the other legislative districts do the same. My colleague, Senator Feldman, who spoke so eloquently about the issue of cannabis, and my colleague, Senator Will Smith, chairman of my committee, who spoke very eloquently about issues of criminal justice and juvenile justice that'll come to our committee. And so there's not much to add other than we've spoken a lot tonight about legislative solutions. And of course, our job as policymakers is to problem solve in many different contexts. So sometimes that means legislation, but sometimes it means doing things outside of legislation. And so I just want to put out there that as your senators and as your delegates, we're here for you in all different contexts. In my district, District 18, that often means acting as kind of a lubricant between the State Highway Administration and municipal government as conveners to make sure everyone is communicating effectively and that needs are getting fixed and funded. And so, we will continue to play that role. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us to play that role. Whenever you have trouble with state government, call your legislators and we're happy to step in and help to resolve these issues. So thank you again for having us. Next year in Jerusalem, as they say. No, next year in person. I'm looking forward to it. Take care.
Thank you. All right, so I saw that Mayor Ashman says happy holidays to everyone. Thanks for all the chats that you all are sending, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing to represent us at the state level. And if you need our help and want us to write in about something, please do let us know. We're happy to work with the municipalities as well as our chapters to get behind some pieces of legislation. I'm just going to check my list here. I think Delegate Pam Queen, you may have wanted to speak, but I wanted to confirm that.
I'm just going to speak real quickly. Just glad to be here. We're going to support all of your definitely your three priorities for this year. Want to say hi to Mayor Rusby from our area. I don't know if I see anyone else here. And we'll be focusing on some economic stability legislation, trying to get support to our child care providers to get them back up. And we're following a bill that's coming from Maine that looks at a way of surveying state property land to to use for affordable housing. So those will be our two sort of economic stability legislative priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. And is there anyone who has joined who I have not acknowledged and or wants to speak?
Hi, Delegate David Moon.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining.
I didn't intend to speak, but I just want to flag one thing that I think was missed. It's sort of a live grenade. I'm on House Judiciary, and along with my colleagues on Judicial Proceedings Committee and Finance Committees, we'll be looking at marijuana legalization. It's likely to get advanced in this coming session. And the only warning I'll give you is that in one of the House work group sessions, we once again had a brief discussion about whether municipalities should be allowed to have a piggyback or local tax in the scheme of doing this. And by way of example, in Colorado, they did something like this. A number of us went and took a tour there. And if a municipality had optioned in to allow dispensaries there, it would get up to, I believe, a 3% sales tax. So again, I don't know what's going to happen in Maryland, but I just wanted to flag that this is not the first time we've had this conversation. And again, it's a live discussion at the moment. So pay attention to that. If it's a it might be a rare revenue opportunity.
I was on mute. Thank you very much for speaking and joining us and for working on those issues. Is there anyone else who did not sign up to speak but wants to or have not acknowledged? Okay, I'm going to turn to my municipal colleagues. Do you have any questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for a hard-working year. I know that you're having to work on legislation under unforeseen circumstances. I pray that this is not the case next year, but just want to thank you for all the hard work, for listening to our issues and our needs, for helping to represent us and tackling the important issues of our state and pressuring on the federal side as well. If you need anything, we are your allies. We are also your advocate. So please feel free to reach out to us at the chapter level, at a municipal level. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful holiday. And we just want to say you're doing fantastic work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe and well, everybody.
For you.